and he left. He went to Vietnam. And twice he was taken out of the jungle. Once was for a super bad tooth infection, and once he had jungle rot in his foot. He stepped on a booby trap, and he was trying to stay in the jungle and just walk through it, but the infection kept on getting bigger and bigger and bigger, so they took him out. Both times they took him out of the jungle, when he came back, his whole platoon was gone. The entire platoon. He had 2 weeks left. Yeah, so when he was going out on medical to get issues handled on his body, his entire platoon was wiped out. That happened twice to him. So, thank my lucky stars, something was keeping him alive. And so 2 weeks left of his service in Vietnam, he gets news that his older brother died, right? His older brother was like his hero, right? He was a Golden Gloves boxer. He protected the family. Everyone knew his name, Gary Cotter, my uncle. He dies in a car accident. So my father comes back from Vietnam before his duty's done, and he misses the funeral and the wake by a day. And we had a judge in the family, and they were trying to get my father, writing some letters to try and get him to go, not to go back to Vietnam, to serve out his final 2 weeks. The government made him go back and serve the final 2 weeks, and he thought he definitely was not coming home. From everything that he's been through, he was a machine gun operator, he was a Marine. He was very good at what he did when he was out there. He kept his people alive when he was doing his job. And he just thought he wasn't coming home. The fact that they were making him go back to serve out the 2 weeks, he just thought he was, you know. And when he did come home, he was different. All of his friends told me that he was different. There was something twisted up. He was wound up in a different way. My mom felt bad for him because when he came home, he got so drunk. There was a bunch of motorcycle guys hanging out in front of this bar near the house. He sat on a bike, knocked it over, knocked all the bikes over, and then they came out and beat the daylights out of him. So my mother nursed him back to health, right? My mother just felt bad for him, went to the house, nursed him back to health. So then they ended up getting together, right? They have me and my brother. And my father had a ton of PTSD, not only from the Marines, but from his early childhood, a ton of trauma. And he joined the fire department. And the guys in the fire department in Harlem and the Bronx and New York City and in other busy cities, busy meaning there's a lot of fires. So he worked in Harlem on 133rd Street, one of the busiest houses in the city. Sometimes there's like 13 runs in a night, right? That means fires that you're running out to. Anyway, that's a whole nother level of PTSD. And a lot of the guys in New York City in that era, 70s and 80s, they started drinking, doing drugs, and just partying their brains off, right, to deal with the trauma. So that's what he was doing. So my mother divorced him when I was 6. And that's where my story with stress started, right? Because my father was my hero. He was a huge guy, super strong, just had this charismatic way about him, had an amazing heart, but just a ton of PTSD. And he left a wake wherever he went. And my mother divorced him because I would probably be dead or in jail, and so my brother if he was still in the house, because so much drinking and things like that. And then when I was 8, I was on a camping trip with my dad, and I was begging him to come home. I was saying, Dad, please come home, please come home. I was crying. He said, I would come home, but your mother won't let me. So at that time, my mom was my source of unconditional love, support. She was feeding me every day, getting me to, kindergarten, school and stuff. And now I hated her because she's the one that won't let my dad in. So that's where really my complex problems with how I related to women, love, myself, men, all of it. Any male authority, I had major issues with. Women, major issues with, right? So I'm going through my teenage years, I'm getting into a lot of trouble. Getting into my 20s, a lot of alcohol, a lot of trouble. And same relationship patterns, They start off really quick, and a lot of fire, and then they go down in a blaze of glory in about 1.5 to 2 years, right? And then after college, the company I was working for transferred me out to California. And California was different. I got very successful very quick there. Before I knew it, I was making $250,000 a year. I had the girl I wanted, the car I wanted, the dog I wanted, the house I wanted. But I was like, I felt like I was at everything I ever wanted, but something felt empty. And I was like, something's not right. So then I made a list of things to do just for myself, right? The first one was learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The next one was go indoor rock climbing. And I started doing things just for me, not to appease my mom, my girlfriend, just for me. And I started feeling amazing, truly amazing. And as this was happening, I was kind of like waking up, read like Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, things started opening up for me. And my mom calls me out of the blue. She's like, Brett, I met this psychic on Long Island. And my mother never said that before. Our family doesn't really go to psychics or anything like that. She's like, she was right on with me, you, and John. My brother's John. She knew everything about us. She was telling me things that there's no way she could have just known. She must have been tied into some divine intelligence. I want you to talk to her. So she gives me her number. I call her. She doesn't pick up. I call this woman for 6 months. Leaving messages, doesn't pick up, no call back, nothing. So I look at my list. I go down my list. I'm liking doing my list, thing just for me. So I go down. I see number 7, 8, 9. I'm looking at it. I go, number 9, learn how to meditate. Number 10, get to know God. I'm going to start there. So I went to schedule a TM class, 3-day workshop. And it was awesome. The first night, they ease you into it. Second day, you're meditating. The third day, they give you a mantra. They send you home. And they say, meditate on your own. They say, do a solo meditation with your mantra. So I'm sitting in my place in California. I'm looking out this sliding glass door, beautiful scene. The upstairs is like a lofted bedroom with a railing over it. You could overlook where I'm sitting. So I'm sitting there. I close my eyes, start doing my mantra. About a minute in, I see the entire room perfectly, but my eyes are closed. I'm like, whoa, that's cool. So all of a sudden, I'm looking around. I see everything in the room. I could even see out the window, the sliding glass door. Still doing the mantra, coming back to the mantra. I'm just kind of like observing everything. And now all of a sudden, I see everything from 12 feet above me where that railing is on the lofted bedroom. So now I'm like, whoa. So now I'm looking down. I see myself sitting in the chair. I see the whole apartment. And now there's a lot of light coming from the right side. The right side is where there was like a sunken living room and a living room area. A ton of light. So I come down. I bring my consciousness. I'm like back down and over here, sitting where I was. I don't stand up. I'm still in the meditative position. I'm in a deep meditation. I get out. I glide over to all this light. I turn. I kind of just go like this. I just kind of like get up. I glide over. All this light is like right here. So now I'm looking at it. And it's me. My head is here. My body's here. My feet are here. And I'm full of light. And there's all these rings, these multicolored rings going around me, like 300 rings. And there's light pulsing in all different directions, all different colors. And I'm just standing there, and I'm like, whoa. I was just like, I don't know how long I was like witnessing this. Eventually, I came back to the seat where I was meditating. And I went back to the meditation workshop that was in the afternoon, and they were like, okay, so tell us what happened. I didn't raise my hand, but I told the woman that was leading it afterwards what happened. She had a funny look in her face. So after that happened, I'm driving home, and as I'm pulling into my driveway, I feel like these 3 waves of like unconditional love and like unfold from my heart. And it was like my next 3 steps. And I'm like, I bet you Tara will pick up the phone. I call the psychic again. She picks up the phone, doesn't say hi, hello. She goes, thanks for hanging in there, kiddo. You're ready. So I spoke to her. We did a session. She told me 3 things I never told anybody to start, to create credibility. 1, she told me I was sexually abused when I was 11. That happened, I didn't tell anybody. No one knew. 2, I saw my grandfather after he passed away when I was 5 years old. When I was laying in bed, he was standing in the doorway watching me. And 3, think I'm a weirdo if you don't already. I saw a ship in my room. After the night I saw my grandfather, there was like this like floating, it was like the Love Boat, but not the Love Boat, but it was like that kind of like ovalish kind of shit. And it was just slowly circulating in the room like that. And that was the only time I saw that. So when she told me those 3 things, I'm like, whoa, this lady, what is she dialed into? Like, how is she telling me this, I was just a guy from Queens that was in California making a living, and, all this stuff started to open up for me. So she goes through the session. She knows I have the problem with jealousy. That was like my core problem, right? And I was trying to like figure out how to fix it. Guys trying to fix things. We usually screw things up worse. But so trying to fix it, she refers me to the healer in Sedona, Arizona. I get in my car, drive 8 hours to Sedona, Arizona that weekend with my girlfriend at the time. I go see this guy. Within 5 minutes, he surfaces the cellular memories that were trapped in my body from when I was 5 years old. I saw my parents arguing in the household I grew up in with the original carpeting. It was this really funky purple carpet when we first moved in there. And I remember as the memories came up, I was actually in the memory. I remember putting my hand down and looking at the carpet. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't thought about this since like forever. And I'm looking up and I'm seeing my dad, and he's like grinding his teeth and clenching his fists, and he's yelling. My mother's wild over here, pointing, screaming, yelling. And I'm like, whoa, that's how I fight with all my girlfriends. And then the feelings of jealousy started to erupt from my body. And anyone in the workshop for the last 2 days, you know what I'm talking about, when those core feelings start to come up from our childhood and we feel it vibrate up. So the jealousy started coming up and I started feeling it. At this time, his hand was up. The healer I was with, his hand turned red. And the jealousy came up, it unlocked and released, and all the rage underneath it came up, the feelings. I felt it in every cell in my body. And then the sadness came up. The sadness underneath the rage came up. And when the sadness came up, his hand that turned red, light came out of it. And it was going right into the roots of my sadness. And then the fear of abandonment unlocked and released from my heart. And then I came here. No, I'm just kidding. So that was in 1999. That was a 90-minute session that completely changed the trajectory of my life. And what I say to people is, when you take 1 step towards God, he takes 10 towards you, or she takes 10 towards you, whatever your vision of God is. And sometimes when you take 1 step towards God, God takes 100 towards you. And that's what happened to me when I drove those 8 hours to Sedona, Arizona. It changed my life forever. I followed him around for like 2 to 3 years. But there were some things, some ways that he lived that I didn't really agree with. So then I kind of like learned what I learned from him and moved on to another teacher, a Shaolin Grandmaster from China. He taught me how to focus my conscious mind, my subconscious mind, and my superconscious mind to facilitate healing. And then I learned from another woman that teaches theta healing. And that was all between 99 and 2001, 2002. And then my own healing process came through. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And it's been slowly evolving over time. it, it never ends. The original issue I had in childhood with myself, my father, my mother, right? The mother, I blamed the female for breaking up the father-son connection, the father-son love. So when my son was born, his mom told me on the third day after he was born, she's taking him from me, right? We were in the hospital for 5 days. She had a C-section. She was a high-risk pregnancy. So she told me that. So, of course, I was heartbroken again. And did 10 years in family court, which was gut-wrenching. And healing at the same time, because as it was coming up, it was leaving, coming up and leaving, coming up and leaving, coming up and leaving. But our cycles repeated. And I bought a house 2 blocks from my son's mother because I wanted to be close to my son. And she didn't like that. But I wanted to be close to him. And that triangle of karma still was there for me. And for 3 years, I was praying for her and every person in her family. And then a shift happened. A big shift happened with how much we antagonized each other and how reactive we were to each other. So after that shift happened for about 6 months, I said something to her. And I said, you know, I started praying for you guys a few years ago and I feel a shift. She's like, I started praying for you 6 months ago. So even you know that saying, love thy enemy? Really, you just want to send, wherever it's coming from, the tension, just sending it love. And those people that show up in our lives with tension, we just want to send them love and send them prayers. Because it's God's clock and the universe's clock is different than ours. You know, I wish we could have just been a happy family, but life is about plan B. My mom wanted the happy family with the white picket fence, but it's about plan B and how you react and how you respond and how you are open to plan B. And my plan B is an amazing life with Stephanie. You know, it's truly amazing how plan B opens up if you just allow it. And you let go of all old resentments and all old heartaches. The universe is going to continue to bring special things through you. So, Vishnu, if we could get the slides a little bit warm, that would be cool. Any questions on anything I said so far? Any questions at all? If anyone was in any of the retreats or in the Yoga Nidra today, if you have any questions on that, feel free. We're going to get into some of the techniques because I want to share some of how I teach people how to do it. And I also want to share with you how I personally do it. And do it, meaning like letting go of my trauma. And it's not like something where you're done. It becomes a way of life. Accepting our emotional tension, accepting our emotional pain, it's a way of life. And when you resist it less and less, the pain becomes less and less. When you open up to it and you open your heart to it. Just give that a minute. What else can I tell you about me? I'm moody at times. I'm normal, just a normal person. I can be annoying. I try to make the stress relief work as easy and simple as possible. But we get to the root. Yeah.
You are talking about techniques, but also you are talking about mystics. So, is this both?
Now, when you said techniques, did you say mystics or mistakes?
It's mystic and technique because you were talking about the healer.
Yes.
The red hand,
Yes.
the white hand, and
Yes.
then now techniques. So, is this a mix of technique and mystic?
You're on to me. That's exactly what it is. It's the techniques are just enough to mind trick our ego into believing we could do it, and then we let go, and then the universe works through us. That's what happens. But the techniques are awesome. I've used them when I'm going through the dark night of the soul. I feel like I've been through it so many times. Like 50 times I've been on my living room floor since 1999 with my arms open and just saying, I know nothing, you know everything. I'm sorry for screwing up again, right? And just like, like that's just like, I know nothing. I know nothing. And then I found when I know nothing and I identify almost with nothing, I could connect with everything and anything. You know, it's like the less I stick to my ego and what I am and who I am, the more I could just be like a chameleon and just go into the moment and let the magic come through in the moment. So it's part technique, just enough to get into the mysticism of how much the universe loves us. The universe is waiting to pour love into each one of us, right? The mind kind of blocks that from happening. So this was something I put together about an hour and a half ago. The slides are a little bit rudimentary, but I do like the cover. The cover's nice. So I wanted to show everybody this. It is the ice below the waterline that sank the Titanic, okay? So we have routine stress. That's our family stress, health, work, the pandemic, news, social media, relationships, loss, finances, right? That's the routine stress. That's the tension we experience daily. It appears to be the problem. We think our spouse, our kids, whatever it is, work, that's the problem. That's the problem, okay? We think that's the problem. It's actually just a symptom, okay? And the waterline here is the subconscious divide. This right here is the waterline, okay? And that red area is the automatic reactions, right? When somebody triggers us and it just comes out, it pops out, right? Automatic reactions. 90% of our mental processing occurs below the conscious level. 90% of our mental processing occurs below the conscious level. Come on up. If anyone emails me, I have a ton of these types of slides, and I could, Brett with 2 T's at stressisgone.com, I'll send you the slides. So when we get over here, this is our trauma, right? If we got bit by a dog when we were 5 years old, right? A German Shepherd, we're going to be afraid. Everything that comes near us that's fuzzy or a dog, we're going to have that fear reaction. The core belief, once we have a traumatic experience, like when I found out, when my father left and I found out my father was under the illusion, it passed on to me that it was her fault, okay? So I blamed her and I hated her. I know it's harsh language, but it's what it was for me in that moment, in that time in my life. The core belief was, I can't trust her. I can't trust her, and I hate her, and I'm very upset with her, okay? We'll get back to that, because that reverberated around. That set the tone for my relationships up until meeting Stephanie. So the trauma creates a core belief. So we have a trauma, an experience. A fear sets in, emotions come in, and then a core belief stamps it, core belief, with some logic. That logic fuels our stressful thoughts and painful emotions. Anything that looks like that German Shepherd that bit us, anything that smells like it, anything that barks like it, sounds like it, feels like it, we're going to get all of that reaction coming up again. We're not going to remember what happened when we were 5 years old, but we're going to feel it all. So every time we get triggered, a stress stew gets stirred up inside of me and you. A stress stew, stirring it up. All the emotions, all that gearing gets worked up, and it pops out in overreactions. So repressed stress is the hidden painful memories that cause us to misperceive things. It increases overreactions and manifests routine stress. So this is like all the deeper stuff, right? Having a neglectful parent, dealing with bullies or older siblings that bullied us, a divorce, abuse, abandonment, loss, right? All these things. In our formative years, they set the tone. They set the tone. And there's many different ways in the workbook that we use in techniques to go below, to get under the waterline, to find the trauma, to express all the pain. And what I found is that if you get to like the core four most traumatic events of your life in your formative years, and the one parent that you wanted more love from, the one parent you have the most trauma with, or the most unresolved emotional pain with, and you let that all go, you have a completely new lease on life. Completely new lease on life. Your top 3 or 4 most traumatic memories, and when you process and release all of that, that holding on to that old emotional pain around that one parent that you wanted more from. Completely new experience of life. I'm going to show you some slides. There's going to be a lot of information on some of them. You don't need to read it. I just want to point it out to you. Some of the slides are coming from our Trauma Recovery Coaches Certification Program. A lot of yoga teachers come into that program, meditation teachers, mental health professionals, because more and more people are coming to yoga classes and meditation classes with their emotional problems because they're not getting the answers they want from the traditional means. Has any of the yoga teachers in here ever had a person cry after a class? Right? Show of hands. Yep, we have a few hands up. That's going to continue to happen, and it's going to be more and more. And it's not your fault. You're actually doing a really good job. You're creating a safe enough space. What these techniques teach you to do is after class is how to help that person do some emotional yoga to release the pain. Okay? So I'm going to share with you a few slides. Try not to read too much of it because it'll get too heady. Okay? But I just want you to look at a few things I'm going to point out. If you were in the workshops, you might have heard me say, what was the energy like in the household you grew up in? Right? Which parent did you want more from? How old were you when it was at its worst? So when someone answers that and they say, when I was 7, it was the worst with my mom. And I say, okay, close your eyes. See yourself in the house with your mom, in the living room or the kitchen when you're 7 years old. What does your 7-year-old want to say to her? That could be like 5 years of therapy, literally in 3 questions. If we create a safe enough space with body language and tone, and we use some of these questions, right? We can bring someone to that place, to those origins of pain, and the magic's going to start to happen once the original trauma is on the surface. So if you were in my workshops the last few days, you might be like, how's he do it? How's he ask those questions? And again, you could email me, anyone that's interested in this. I promise you I'll email you the slides. But you could take pictures of it too. It's okay. The true magic, the universe comes through so strong when the source of our broken heart is on the table. When the core pain is on the surface is when spirit wants to get right into it with us and release that pain from us. The ego has so many protections protecting us and defense mechanisms from feeling our own feelings that it's almost like picking a lock to the subconscious. And if you were in the workshops, you know that sometimes I'm like serenading the pain from the depths of your subconscious. Softly serenading it, asking you the questions, right? And it's an intuitive process. These questions took me 25 years to figure out. And sometimes, if I'm with somebody, it'll jump around. We'll start here. Then my intuition will just pop up over here. And by 3 questions, the memory's on the surface. All right? When students are new in the program, they just go right down the questions. They pick what the client's showing them. If the client's overwhelmed, old emotional issues on the surface, an acute current issue, or they're unsure, right? Those are like the kind of general states people show up to a trauma recovery coach. But yoga teachers use this, meditation teachers use this, because often after meditation classes, there'll be someone crying. Because when their mind gets clear, the emotions might come up, and then, or a memory might come up, and this really helps people decipher what it is, where the source is, and then these are the higher power affirmations. So, you know, in our workshop where I'll be saying some certain phrases, everyone repeats it, and it unlocks and releases the pain from the body. So what we do is we bring up the source of the pain, and then we call upon Krishna, just like the other day. Whatever word you love, the most important thing is the person in pain, you want to ask them, how do you like to refer to a higher power? We can receive God as we believe God to be. If the person's favorite word is Krishna, if the person's favorite word is Jesus, if the person's favorite word is Allah, but whatever it is, we use that person's favorite word of whoever is in pain, okay? What a good question. If anyone has any good questions, well, all the questions that you ask are good. You could just let them out, okay? All right, if you don't believe in God, I pray for you. No, I'm just kidding. If you don't believe in God, start. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you could say I, or universe. Because usually people that don't believe in God, you can't say the universe doesn't exist. So you could say I, right? So it'd be like, I unlock and release all this sadness from my heart right now. So when they feel it, because they want to release it, right? They want to release it. And what I found over time is that when someone's core pain is on the surface, that they haven't felt in 30 or 40 years, they start to really become open to God in that moment. So when you say, how do you like to refer to a higher power? It's kind of rare in that moment that they say, I don't like that higher power thing. You know, but if you ask them before that moment, they might say, I don't really have a word for higher power. Say, okay, we'll use the word universe, I, and that's okay. It works great. It works great. You know why? Because the power of the subconscious. Because the power of the subconscious. When you say words, your body responds, the universe responds. So when you say, I want to release all the sadness from my heart, and you're touching it. So remember, we're touching the sadness, we're breathing into the sadness, we're embracing it, right? And when we're coaching, we're asking questions, we're letting it speak, so we're witnessing it. So that sadness has 4 ears on it, the coach and the client, 4 eyeballs on it, so it's being seen and heard, and the coach begins to open up their heart to it, and then the client calls in a higher power, or I, right? Or universe. Now we start to go into the light, right? I shine, you can say, I shine my own light through the center of the sadness and melt it down from the inside out right now. So imagine when you are just hunched over, crying like a baby when you're gasping, right? And if Krishna is your word, or whatever your word is, right? Source. Shine light through the center of the sadness. You start to feel it. It changes from the inside out. You start to feel that tension leave. Then there's other ones. Sometimes we have numbness. Our nerve endings are fried because we've been through so much, and we have like all this built up stuff to keep us from feeling. So we have stuff to melt through the numbness. Then taking our power back, we have ones for that. Sealing in the change, that's very important as well, because when we let go of the tension and the trauma, there's a heaviness that leaves, but there's also now wide open space. So we want to make sure we call in the good stuff that we want. More joy, whatever it is you want. You would ask the person, what do I want? Or you ask yourself, what do I want? So when I'm doing this kind of work, let's say somebody triggers me out of the blue. Let's say my son triggers me out of the blue in a really big way, right? I'll be like, wow. I'll stop, I'll touch it, I'll start breathing deeply and slowly into it. I'll let the emotion expand. I call that letting the cake bake. And then I'll feel, what is it? Is it anger, sadness, fear? I identify what emotion. And then I listen to the thought that's repeating in the back of my mind. How could he do this to me? I say, okay, when's the first time I ever felt, how could he do this to me? And felt that anger. When's the first time I ever had that thought and that feeling together? And then I look back on the household I grew up in and I flash through people's faces. My mom. No. My brother. No. My dad. Yeah. Okay. It comes up hot. When there's an emotional charge, when you do it like that, one face is going to come up hot. You're going to feel it, or you might see it in red. And then you're like, okay, there it is. And then you start breathing into it. And you just bring that person's face right, this is what I do. Bring that person's face, I just let the emotions come. I talk to it like I'm talking to it right now. I just let all the words come out. So I'm expressing my emotions. I'm venting everything. And then I call in my higher power, okay, to clean it all out of me. And then I feel better. Okay, so really quick, here's the emotional body model. This is something else. It's taken me a long time to figure out through a bunch of different sources. Different parts of the body store different trends of emotions, right? If you look at headaches, right? Headaches, the top of the head we do over here. Intense mental stress, too much to think about. So a good affirmation for that one is, right where it's too much to think about, I hand it over to the universe to figure it out. Show me the way, make it easier day by day. So when you hand it over to the universe, when it's too much to think about, and you hand it over to the universe to figure it out, the headache starts to leave you like that. It's like instantaneously. Just play with that. If your eyes hold stress, it's times in your life that you saw too much. The throat is where you knew what to say, but you held it back anyway. The heart, obviously anger, loss, rage. Solar plexus, when you're stressed out and you have the tension here, that's when your power was taken away or you gave it away. So you can see there's all these different areas in the body that pull it. The spine is not feeling supported. The shoulders are where we held on or where we took on more responsibilities and we were given a lot of obligations. This is the inner child visualization, right? So this is something, if you got this book right here, it's in there. If anyone wants the slide, I'm happy to share these slides with anybody if you want that. So it just guides you through a process where you rescue your inner child. So if there was like a really deep memory that came up with a lot of pain, it's a process that brings you through that inner child rescue. And this is just the flow of a session. So I'm kind of like, if you were in the workshop and the retreat and stuff like that this week, and you're like, how does he do what he does? I'm just lifting up the hood of the car and showing you the engine, how it works. The discovery is the questions that I ask, right? We let the person breathe and express all their pain from the source of the issue. We call in with the higher power, with the unlock and release, and then closure. So closure is the last part down here, the last 10 minutes of grounding and empowering. So typically what I do is I teach stress stopper breath work so they know how to handle their stress next time they get upset. And then I have them teach it to me. I have them teach me stress stopper breath work. Right? Super, super important. Super important to learn stress stopper breath work. Anytime you're upset or stressed, touch the tension, breathe deeply and slowly into it, and once per breath, silently say, I'm okay. So let's just do 3 of them together. I'll say it out loud and you could just say it silently and just see how you feel after 3 deep, slow breaths, right? Full inhales and exhales and then 1 I'm okay mantra, right? So inhale, touching the area of tension. I'm okay. Feeling the airflow coming in through your nose, opening up your sinuses, cooling off the energy right behind your eyes. I'm okay. Feeling the airflow going down your throat, circulating throughout your chest, unlocking and releasing any old tension right now. I'm okay. And you could notice, just after a few repetitions, you start to feel a little bit more relaxed. The key to that is the touch. When our calm cells touch the tense cells, there's an equilibrium that happens, right? Science has been telling us deep, slow breaths can manually shift gears from stress to rest. Science has been telling us that for decades. But I love the I'm okay mantra because it's the reverse logic of our fight or flight reaction, which is I must run or fight to stay alive. Every time you get stressed, the programming of our hardwired stress reaction is I must run or fight to stay alive. Every time you get upset, that's what's going on in your body, that's what's happening in your cells. So when your cells that think they must run or fight to stay alive, when those cells feel connected with your hand, they feel a connection. When they feel the airflow moving through the tension, right? Now the cell membrane when we're stressed gets very thick. Air does not get in and out of it. It hunkers down for survival. When we touch it, it starts to relax and go back into its normal state. And then when we're breathing deeply and slowly, the airflow can actually get into those cells that were holding the tension. When we say, I'm okay, once per breath, it's also how you say a mantra. If you're just saying, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, you're probably going to be more stressed. But if you say, I'm okay, you're still going to have a lot of background thoughts. I'm okay. The background thoughts start getting over here now. I'm okay. And now they just start to get whisked away with the breeze. And then you get back into the ease and flow without the resistance. And that's how you let go of stress. It's the quickest way I found to activate the body's relaxation response. Super important to understand that. So there was a few other things I wanted to show you on that, but I think we'll close it out there. I wanted to talk about that guy. I had a few teachers, but they weren't mentors. They didn't lay out the steps for me, right? They did not lay out the steps for me. I feel like I've been in the ocean for the last 22 years trying to figure it out. Some days I'm below water, catching air bubbles. Thank you, Shiva. And Shiva, could you just make show the Bluetooth is on too. I didn't know he existed until I came here, right? But the stuff that I've been learning has blown me away, has really blown me away in such a short period of time. And the thing that really struck me was that this guy learned how to fly a plane and flew over war zones and dropped flowers and yoga leaflets in war zones. I thought I was pretty bad, but like good when I was doing workshops for like Bloods and Crips, right? I was the first one in Long Island to actually have a Blood and a Crip in a room. But then I hear this guy learns how to fly a plane and fly over war zones and drop yoga leaflets out of it with flowers? Are you kidding me? This guy's like my Superman. And you're a part of his lineage. You are his lineage. That just amazes me. Truly amazes me. And it just really amazes me. And the fact that he created the program that you all are learning and that you're all teaching, it's amazing to me. It truly is amazing to me. And I am so grateful that I am here, that I want to share something with you. It's only going to be a minute, but I feel like he really wants me to share it, because when I think of him, he's saying, do it. So there was this I searched long and far to find this monk in the Himalayas, and he showed me this one movement that you do to release all the stress from you, okay? And I want to show it to everybody in here. But we just got to stand up. You don't need a lot of room, but we just got to stand up to do it. So if we could just do this one move together, I just want to show it to you. And it's only going to take a minute, but it requires you to let go. It requires you to let go, okay? So, and it does incorporate the ah sound, okay? So you put one foot in front of you like this, and then you just start turning your ankle. Okay, start turning your ankle. Just start turning your ankle from 3 to 9, 3 to 9, 3 to 9. Now we're doing the ah sound. Ah. Now, shake it up, baby. Now, open up the hips a little bit. Twist and shout. You should see all of you. You're amazing. That guy's smiling. That guy's smiling. Swami, Swami. Can you give me a little ankle, Swami? Swami! I knew I could get you. Swami, hold on. Shake it, baby, now. Hands up, hands up. Shake it, baby, now. Shake it, baby, now. Nice job. One more ah. Ah. You're all awesome. Oh my God. Okay. You see how we just played? See how we just played? And the other day I did the Krishna thing. This stuff, that was the most scariest thing that I had to do in like 2 years, okay? But when Spirit wants me to do it, I say yes, I just do it. So everyone in the yoga programs, the teacher training programs, when you don't want to get up one day, remember this guy. Say, I'm going to learn how to fly a plane and drop yoga leaflets and roses, right? When you get out of here and you're afraid to go on Instagram and share your practice and share your gift because you don't know how you're going to look and you're not sure, just remember him learning how to fly a plane and pulling the lever and dropping roses and leaflets, right? And then when you're like putting your resume together to go apply at a studio, a big studio, or a corporation, or you want to volunteer with children, and you're a little bit nervous, you don't know if you could do it, just remember that guy learning how to fly a plane, pulling the lever, and dropping the leaflets and the flowers. All right? You guys have a lineage. You are amazing. God bless you all. Thank you.